Okay, so jumping right in, today we're taking a deep dive into Deepfake AI.
Right.
Something I'm sure you've come across, maybe even seen some pretty convincing ones out there. But what we're going to try and do is break down why this is a big deal based on some information that we've been looking at. I mean, you've seen some of these things. What's the, I guess for people who aren't totally up on it yet, what's the sort of, I don't know, elevator pitch definition of a deepfake?
Yeah. So a deepfake is basically using artificial intelligence to create a replica of someone, either their face or their voice.
Right.
And it can be incredibly realistic. It's almost like the AI studies a person, learns their patterns in terms of how they look, how they sound, even like subtle mannerisms.
Right.
And then can actually map that onto an entirely new scenario. So you might see a video of someone, saying and doing things that they never actually said or did.
Right, and that's what we're going to unpack in this deep dive, is why this matters and what you can do about it. Because I think a lot of people are very interested in AI, but they also sort of have a feeling of, well, this is moving very fast. I don't know if I can keep up with it. Yeah. And we hope to at least keep you abreast of the most important points. So, starting off with the big one, disinformation.
Yeah. This is, I think, a really big concern with deepfakes, because it really exploits the fundamental trust that we have in what we see and hear.
Yeah.
We've always sort of assumed that if we see a video of someone or hear an audio recording, that is genuine.
Especially video, right? I mean, there's always been doctored photos. There's always been, things that we're not sure of.
Right. Exactly.
And video, we tend to think, well, that's pretty cut and dried, right?
Yeah.
So
it has this sort of inherent trustworthiness.
Right.
But, with deepfakes, imagine like a scenario where you have a perfectly created video of, a political leader making some kind of scandalous announcement, and it goes viral. And even if it only takes, a few hours for fact checkers to debunk it, the damage is already done.
Yeah. Misinformation travels at the speed of light on the internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem here. It spreads so fast. And once it's out there, it's virtually impossible to retract it.
Right. And this is something that we've seen with, just text-based misinformation.
Exactly.
You can put something out there, you can retract it.
It's never truly gone.
You can apologize for it. It doesn't matter. It's out there. But with video and with audio, people are even less likely to
question it. And if you see something that looks real, sounds real, it's very hard to then convince yourself that it's not.
Right. And so this is why it becomes such a significant threat, because it really, shakes the foundation of how we trust information, how we share information.
Yeah. It forces us to question, what can we believe in a world where, these kinds of sophisticated manipulations are possible?
Yeah. And then on top of that, we have the more sort of individual level threat, which is the threat to personal safety and privacy. So we talked about political leaders and sort of big, global events.
Right.
But we're talking here about individuals being targeted. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we see examples of this already, where people are using deepfake technology for, malicious purposes. So we're talking about things like harassment campaigns.
Yeah.
Generating false news stories about individuals.
Right. To damage their reputations, to get them fired from their jobs, to break up their marriage, whatever the reason might be.
Right. And even blackmail. I mean, you could imagine scenarios where people are being blackmailed with deepfake videos that make them look like they're doing something that they never actually did.
And one area that seemed particularly troubling was this idea of deepfakes being used in revenge porn.
Yeah, and this is a very disturbing trend.
Yeah, and it's especially damaging, I think, because it so profoundly violates someone's privacy.
Exactly.
And it can be incredibly difficult for the victim to prove that the content is fake. They're out there saying, this isn't me, this didn't happen, but it looks so real, it sounds so real.
And the psychological harm that this can inflict, the damage to their reputation, it's really a serious issue.
Right. And so we have these issues, they're bad enough as it is, but then on top of that, what's really frightening is how quickly this technology is progressing.
Right, it's moving incredibly fast.
Yeah. I mean, I remember a few years ago, maybe you remember this too, where you could kind of spot a deepfake. You'd look at it, you'd say, well, the eyes aren't moving right, or the mouth doesn't quite match up with the words, or, something was a little bit off, but it seems like those days are gone.
They are rapidly disappearing. And that's because the AI algorithms that are being used to create these deepfakes are getting so much better at mimicking human behavior.
Right.
The nuances of facial expressions, the way our voices sound, even experts in the field are having trouble distinguishing real from fake now.
Right. And so that's what makes this so unsettling, is that we're entering this territory where we just can't trust what we see or hear online anymore. And that has big implications for all of us.
Exactly. And it's not just about public figures, it's about everyday people being targeted, in their personal lives.
So given all of this, given these potential dangers, what are some things that, people listening, what are some things they can do to protect themselves?
Well, I think the first and most important thing is to really develop your media literacy skills.
Okay.
We have to become much more critical consumers of the information that we encounter online. So if you see a video, especially if it's something that's really sensational, outrageous, or just seems too good to be true, pause and question it.
Right. Like if you get that gut feeling of, something's not right here.
Exactly.
Don't just take it at face value. Don't just automatically believe it and share it with everybody.
Yeah. Do some digging. Where did this video come from?
Right. What's the source?
Yeah. Is it a reliable source?
Sure.
Are other credible news outlets reporting on the same story? These are really important questions to ask.
And so it's not just about looking at the video itself, it's also about looking at the context around the video.
Exactly. And the good news is that there are technologies being developed to help us detect deepfakes. So there are programs and even apps now that can scan videos for inconsistencies that might suggest that they've been manipulated.
Okay.
So they might look for things like unnatural lighting, odd blinking patterns,
Right.
or a mismatch between the audio and the lip movements.
But, and this is important for people to keep in mind, these tools aren't foolproof, right?
No, they're not.
Yeah.
And the technology is constantly evolving.
Right. So as fast as they come up with new ways to detect these things, the people creating them are coming up with new ways to get around the detection.
Exactly. So, while these tools can be helpful, they're not a replacement for your own critical thinking and your own skepticism.
So the skepticism is always going to be the most important.
Absolutely. And of course, it's not just about individuals being vigilant. Social media companies and governments have a responsibility here too.
Right.
To develop better detection methods, to implement policies that can help prevent the spread of these harmful deepfakes.
And so it's really a multi-level problem that requires a multi-level solution.
Exactly. It's a complex issue, but it's one that we need to address because it has implications for the integrity of our information ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah. So it really comes down to being more careful, more discerning about what we consume online,
Yeah.
checking our sources, not taking things at face value, and remembering that a healthy dose of skepticism is really our best defense in this digital age.
Absolutely.
So to kind of wrap things up, what we've seen is that deepfake AI, while it's a remarkable technology, has this huge potential for misuse.
Right.
And it's something that we really need to pay attention to.
And it requires a collective effort to address it.
Yeah. It's not just about one person. It's not just about one company. It's not just about one government.
It's about all of us.
It's about all of us working together to kind of mitigate these risks. So now that you have this deeper understanding of what deepfakes are and what the potential dangers are, think about, what this means for trust in the information that we see online, how it's changing our perception of reality. How can each of us play a role in navigating this increasingly complex landscape where it's harder and harder to tell what's real and what's not? That's something we all have to think about going forward.
Absolutely.
So that's it for our deep dive on deepfake AI. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.